is Matthew Holt on the HIMSS floor at the booth of Intersystems, a company which has grown rapidly over the last few years, but has actually been around 35 years. It's Paul Grabscheid. Paul is the Vice President of Strategic Planning at Intersystems. So, Paul, for people, Intersystems is a little bit hidden, does a couple of things. It's probably best known for being the online database for Epic and many other companies. So, just give us quickly what are the things that Intersystems does.
Well, we're really known primarily, as you say, as a technology supplier, often inside other people's solutions. In recent times, our focus has very much been on our HealthShare products and on connecting all the different parts of healthcare together, connecting the systems, connecting the data, connecting the people.
Right. So you're introducing now a new aspect to that, where really you've been, if you like, underneath the data, putting the data pieces together. Other people have been doing stuff within applications, but now you're sort of going to the surface layer and creating a new. In fact, there's a little picture of it there that you can just pick up the connected community around the record. Tell us a bit about the new product.
Sure. Well, obviously, it's always been our view that we need to have a firm technology foundation, that interoperability is really key. But to really get benefit from that, organizations want solutions. And we've recognized that there's some solutions it makes sense for us to build, and lots of other solutions that others will build, either other software companies or healthcare organizations. So we are introducing at the show this week a new patient engagement solution called HealthShare Personal Community.
And tell us a bit more about what that's going to look like and who's going to be using it.
Well, it's really designed as a system that sits on top of our interoperability capabilities for a given patient or a given population, can connect to lots of different providers and their systems, can pull all the data together, can enable a patient to see his or her information in an intuitive way, can allow organizations to offer services like prescription refill or appointment scheduling in a kind of cross-platform, cross-provider basis, can enable easy and secure communications between a patient and their provider. So those are some of them.
So you can do transactions as well as see records, but if you had a record at different providers and you're at 5 doctors and 4 hospitals or whatever, you can theoretically pull them in. And what does the consumer and the patient have to do? How are you marketing it to them, and where do they go get this? And then when they're there, do they have to know the 5 passwords the first time and set it up that way, or how does it actually work?
Well, this is a product, that may be sold to a provider or a provider network. It may be sold to a health information exchange organization, and they will work, and they will work with us to get providers connected to it. So there's always some kind of sponsor for these networks. And then there are lots of different mechanisms for actually enrolling patients. In our experience, most of that happens in primary care. And if you can't make it happen there, trying to do it other ways is really difficult. But we've put a lot of effort into how do we get people enrolled in this, and how do we generate good adoption.
All right. Great, interesting. So, just to end, let me switch gears and ask a couple of things about the company. First off, you're a pretty big company for healthcare, $500 million in revenue, and you're sort of been growing internet. We've been discussing off camera, been growing internationally, and a lot of different. You actually are in the EMR business outside of the US. You're growing these new areas. We've just seen a huge amount of money dumped into the system, which has benefited you and many other people, many other companies, in terms of the High-Tech Act. How do you think the market itself for the US, for your core businesses in the HealthShare world and in the CashShare database, how do you think it's going to evolve in the next couple of years? You're the strategic planning guy, you should have an answer.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. One of the things I've observed about this HIMSS event is there are even more international attendees than I remember from last year or the year before. Seems like something that's growing every year, and higher level attendees. And what I think is going on worldwide is people are thinking about how to restructure their healthcare systems, how to change the way hospitals operate internally. They're actually not thinking so much about how to automate things right now. They're thinking about how to change the way healthcare operates, and then what does that mean from a technology standpoint, and how can they help propel those changes forward by using technology. So I think the whole question of how do I take the fragmented world of healthcare and knit it together, how do I take all these different parts of the system and actually make them work together, remains a driving force, and it creates a great opportunity for technology like ours that can deliver that interoperability.
So if I was to put you on the spot about the US, do you think the next 5 years are going to be as good for you as the last 5?
I think they're going to be better, I think in the U.S. we're moving from gotta have a new EMR to okay, we've got one and it solved some problems but not all the problems, and and the pressure to change continues. So I think we're now at a stage of organizations looking and saying, what's the next thing I need to do? What's the next sort of transformation we need to undergo? The other thing I can tell you is that, when I talk to the health systems that we've worked with for a long time, half of them are becoming payers. All of them are engaged in different payment models and different incentive systems. So I think they're not feeling like their job is done by any measure. And,
right. Good. Last question, and this is a technology question. So healthcare's been famous for running different technologies than anybody else than the rest of the world runs. Yeah. You guys are part of that because you have a proprietary database system, which is is well. You do it. I didn't know you had it outside of healthcare. You told me you had some outside of healthcare installations. Yeah. Not that I understand it, but back in Silicon Valley, people talk about Hadoop and these other third data. Yeah. Do you think you're going to stay with what you have in that world? Do you think that other stuff comes into healthcare? What do you think? The sort of issue that healthcare does stuff in months or languages which don't get used elsewhere. How do you think that evolves? Do we stay doing that, and those sort of healthcare-specific programming and database systems become, more flexible the way that we see elsewhere? Or how do you think that's going to